It's also considered a plant teacher, like the spirit of cacao. You'll hear people refer to the spirit of cacao, and just this idea that there's an actual intelligence in this plant that can have a significant impact on you.
Welcome to the Feminine Alchemy Podcast, where we explore the truth about the feminine, the peaceful, the wild, and the visceral. I'm your host, Jaye Anne, joined by my co-hosts, Julie Dean Richards and Kaylee Rose. Each week, we explore the deep mysteries of the feminine and help listeners apply them to their daily lives in a practical way. Join us to unlock the hidden wisdoms your soul has been waiting for. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Feminine Alchemy. I am Jaye Anne, one of your hosts, and I have Kaylee Rose here on with me. Say hi.
Hello.
So today we're going to talk about something so fun, so near and dear to my heart, and I'm sure a lot of people's hearts actually, because it is a heart opener. We're going to talk about cacao, the benefits of cacao, how you work with cacao, and a lot of the backstory around it. And then we're going to share our experiences with it specifically. So I'm super excited for this episode. When Kaylee brought up the idea of talking about cacao, I was like, yes. But first, our get to know you question. I think that we wanted to talk about, I have a really interesting story that I wanted to tell everybody. So I'm going to ask Kaylee about your hometown. Tell us a story about your hometown, and you get to hear a story about mine.
All right. So I wasn't born here, but I was raised here in Blackfoot, Idaho. I still live there. And it is known as the potato capital of supposedly the world. I don't know. I haven't checked in with every other country on the planet because I don't have time for that. But we have a potato museum that has like the largest potato chip ever made, I believe. And there's like a potato sack that Marilyn Monroe wore for a photo shoot and all kinds of potato related stuff. And the museum's actually kind of cool to go visit. I've been a few times in my life, but we also have like this gigantic potato. It's not real. I mean, it's not like a real potato, but it's like plaster, and people take pictures. Like people come to this tiny town to take pictures in front of this gigantic potato. And it's like, okay, cool. Interesting road trip. And they serve like, they give free, the phrase is free taters for out-of-staters. So like they'll give you some potatoes when you come if you're from out of state. And there's potato ice cream if you've never had potato ice cream. Do you have to like
show ID? First of all, do you have to show ID and be like, no, this is my... Wow. So if someone moved to your state but kept their out-of-state ID, they could just give free potatoes all the time?
I mean, in theory, I suppose they could. They might get recognized after a while, though. Like, wait a minute. You come here a lot. Are you sure you're not from around here? But yeah, the potato ice cream is super yummy.
Like, what does it taste like? And how do they do that? Do they mash potatoes? Or is it potato starch they mix in?
Like, yeah, I know there's potato starch involved in the process. I don't remember how much potato is actually in the ice cream, but it's very, very creamy, and it's flavored like whatever the heck they want to flavor. Like the huckleberry is really good, but it's just like, it's really creamy, but also has this interesting texture that I honestly don't know how to describe. I don't know. I don't have words, but it's really good.
Sounds amazing. That your not words are like washing over me and sounding amazing. Yeah. And it's like really fluffy. And I've used potato starch instead of cornstarch for things. So I could see how it would make the ice cream really creamy, but like, guys, don't go home and like pour potato flakes in your ice cream. I don't think that's what she's talking about.
Don't do that. I mean, you could make mashed potatoes and put it on an ice cream cone. I mean, it wouldn't taste the same, but it would be potato ice cream.
Yeah, so everyone should come to Kaylee's retreat and go have potato ice cream. So that is awesome. I love that it's like an oddly famous thing for such a small town, because I have my story is a little bit similar of a concept. I grew up in Northern Virginia in what's called Loudoun County, which is like 75% of the world's internet runs through Loudoun. Yeah, we've got servers, data centers upon data centers upon data centers. Well, I say we, but I don't live there anymore. So family does. But yeah, right. So they're all in Ashburn, and I grew up in this little town called Sterling, which was not the rich part of Loudoun County. It was like the poorer part. So, but it was like fine. It was like we were fine. It was just we lived in the less affluent area. Like Ashburn is like crazy rich area, and they have a really ever since they opened, they've had like this crazy good football team because they treat their football team like the NFL does
All
or
right.
college teams do. It's like a big deal. But our team, so I went to Parkview, our team, after I graduated, like years and years after I graduated from this school, the team was like, this county was like, oh, we don't have enough money to run a football team. Okay, but you have money to run this like really like powerhouse football team just one town over, really? Like you're not going to do that. So it was really interesting, very odd. And the whole point of the story, I want everyone to know, is this. Not only to be nosy, but also I'm getting a lot of people saying to me like I'm the only one person, like I can't do anything, I can't change anything. And this is the story of two single people who changed a lot of things. So the football team, they're like, no, we're just canceling football for this school. We're just canceling all this stuff. We don't have the money. Meanwhile, like they're funneling money to the rest of the county, like doing all this stuff. So this is where our celebrity part comes in. But Hillary Burton, who is like a famous person, she had gone to my school. Like she graduated from Parkview High School. And she was like, oh heck no, like my alma mater is not losing their football team. Comes back and like makes sure that Parkview has a football team, like fully make sure it happens. So that was really cool. Like, but yes, a lot of people are gonna say like I'm not a famous person, so I can't like change stuff anyways. Let me tell you about somebody else, because the school is falling apart, completely falling apart. Is like full of asbestos. It was built in the 70s. They remodeled it when I was there, but they didn't really like make us leave when they were pulling everything out. So there's just
Oh my
like
god.
dust. I could see the dust in the air as I was walking down the hallway. It was just like
Gosh,
whatever.
that's terrible.
So much asbestos. Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. It was so bad. It was so like they did not try that hard to protect the students.
Sounds like they hardly tried at all.
No, no. The whole time I was like, why am I having trouble breathing? It's a wonder I don't have asthma today. But anyhow.
Oh,
So
wow.
they were like, oh, we should just remodel a section. And someone stands up, this lady stands up and goes, no, you just rebuilt a younger high school. Like just level the thing and start from scratch. And they're like, oh, I don't know. So she created a Facebook group and she did all of these different community events to raise awareness for the project, to raise money for the teams and for other extracurriculars, because they were threatening all the extracurriculars just for this school. Like the whole county is just like super wealthy. Meanwhile, they're just crapping all over this particular school.
Hmm.
So yeah, they blew up the football field and they're going to build a new high school there while they're still going to they need a building, so
Yeah.
they moved the football field. They do have a football team.
They still have a team.
They still have it. They're just building the new high school on the old football field.
Okay.
So all that to say is if you're like I'm only one person, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do, and we have a lot of resources available to us to actually make changes. And I think I just really wanted to encourage people today because there's a lot of discouragement out there. I'm only one person. Yeah, I know. And also, when we have a lot of people who are dealing with the same thing, it's time to do more than just commiserate and like get together. There's a lot of power in all of the people who are frustrated. There's a lot of power in that. And you can do it. You can do stuff. I don't know if you can do the exact thing that you're setting out to do because maybe that's not even the right way. But like you can do stuff. There's stuff we can do. And at the end of the day, sometimes I don't do stuff because I'm just tired and that's okay, right? You can say
Yeah.
opt out, but it's time to just like let yourself imagine the possibility that the stuff that you want to change can actually change.
That's so powerful.
So that's what I wanted to say. And that's a silly story about famous people in my hometown. She legit did that though. That was the part where I was like, what? One Tree Hill? That Hillary Burton? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's wild.
Yeah. It's crazy. What are you gonna do? But today we are actually talking about cacao, and Kaylee's gonna tell us a story. Not even, it's just a story, but like going into all of the really cool stuff about what is cacao and how is it different from chocolate. Everyone loves chocolate, and there's a reason that there's this draw towards this plant. Even in the screwed up, watered down, milked down versions that we have today, there's this draw and there's this like association of chocolate with love, right? There's this association of chocolate with like sensuality, and it's all baked in to this plant. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. I'm really excited. I love this. I love this topic.
I'm so glad you're excited about this. And even in what you just said, like that's the big tie-in into like, why is this on this podcast? Like, why are we talking about cacao on the Feminine Alchemy podcast? And it is that like very deep, like integral part of this plant it is sensuality. It is love. It is this groundedness, all of which ties so closely to the feminine and the embodiment of the feminine. But we'll get more into like why this all ties in a little bit later in the episode. So yeah, chocolate comes from the same plant, but it goes through a whole lot of different processes to become chocolate. But what I really want to focus on right now is something called ceremonial cacao, which takes the cacao plant and it's a certain level of purity. There's a whole process, a very intentional process that it goes through to bring out the natural strengths of the plant and present it in a way that people can use. So cacao, this plant that we're talking about, its name is Theobroma cacao. My understanding is that Theobroma actually means like from the gods. So it's this idea of like this plant came from the gods. And there's multiple mythologies that incorporate cacao as this gift from the gods. But let's see. Ceremonial cacao in particular it's pure and minimally processed. The chocolate that you find on your grocery stores is very, very highly processed. There are things taken out of it. There are things added back into it. But ceremonial cacao, it's been dried and it's been fermented to bring out a lot of the qualities that are so valuable in it. And when it's done intentionally, the 4 elements are brought into the equation. So there's fire involved, more from the sun than actual fire in the drying process. And there is water involved in there, more in the actual growing of the cacao than in the processing of the cacao. There's earth involved in that it grows out of the earth, but also this kind of like, I don't know, this fermenting process is a very earthy process. And then there's also air involved as part of the drying process. And as far as history goes, the use of cacao is ancient. There is actually archaeological evidence that suggests that the cultivation of cacao and its use as a ceremonial drink dates back 3,900 years ago in Central America, 1,300 years ago in Ecuador specifically. So it's been around a while. It's been in use for a long time in these particular cultures. Let's see, particularly the Maya, the Aztec, and the Olmec civilizations in Mesoamerica. And as far as the mythology goes, the Maya associated cacao with the gods of fertility and the gods of creation and the gods of abundance. So there was a lot of love for and desire for cacao with all these different connections. And in the creation myth of the Maya, after the Maya people were made from corn, so corn and cacao are like the 2 biggest plants as far as like significance and love for them in Mesoamerican cultures. And so after the Maya people were made from corn, it's said that the mountain of sustenance, the mountain that everything came from, then gave them the gift of cacao. Almost like this crowning, like here is the best for you. And then in Aztec lore, it's said that the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl actually stole cacao from the gods to give to the humans because he loved the humans so much and thought that they deserved the cacao as well, which is kind of funny. Like, let's steal the cacao and give it to them. It reminds me of, is it Prometheus who stole fire and brought to in Greek mythology? So just this idea of like humanity being beloved enough to steal cacao to bring to them. And then cacao was also used as currency. It was incredibly valuable. A single cacao bean was the equivalent of a tamale. And So, like, it was a pretty big deal. As far as, like, health benefits of cacao, it's very rich in antioxidants. It contains a lot of precursors to neurotransmitters. So it's got anandamide, which is known as the bliss molecule. It's got, I don't remember how to pronounce this, phenylethylamine, which is linked to feelings of love, and tryptophan, which is the precursor of serotonin. And it's naturally high in theobromine, which is it's a mild stimulant that promotes alertness, but it doesn't have the same crash as caffeine. So in a sense, it's a more stable stimulant than caffeine is, though there is some caffeine in cacao and ceremonial cacao. The presence of the theobromine and the high fat content, because the fat is not removed at all, that helps so that you don't crash from the little bit of caffeine that there is. Let's see, cacao is also rich in magnesium and flavonoids and antioxidants that support circulation and cardiovascular function. So cacao is known as a heart opener, but on a like physical level, it's highly supportive of the heart and the health of the heart. It also supports gut health and might assist in detoxification through improved liver function. All of which is like so fascinating to me that there is so much richness in the single plant for our physical well-being. And then as far as spiritual and energetic significances, like we've already mentioned, it's a heart opener. It's known as a medicine for the heart and an opener of the heart chakra, and supporting with emotional release and self-love, connection, being able to be guided by your own heart, being open to receiving love from other people. All of that is a part of the medicine of cacao. It's also used sometimes as a meditative tool to help with the creative process, to enhance meditation, shamanic journeying, things like that. And it's also considered a plant teacher, like the spirit of cacao. You'll hear people refer to the spirit of cacao, and just this idea that there's an actual intelligence in this plant that can have a significant impact on you. That was kind of like a fire hose of like, here's a bunch of information about cacao. Is there anything that you want to add to that, Jan? We're
Oh yeah.
seeing everybody with words right now.
So this is like, so from a practical standpoint, like this is a really great tool to use if you are a person who struggles to ever feel their emotions. This is a very gentle way to start opening the heart. Like doing lots of drumming can be good, but it may just be like too much, or doing whatever else that other people are recommending. Even like some types of breathing can be too intense for that.
It can be highly activating.
Yeah, but if you just have this some ceremonial cacao, especially if you do it in a group setting, you start to feel that openness without the catharsis. I just don't see, I don't buy into catharsis as an inherent virtue. I feel like it's a very upsetting, jarring way of opening the emotions. Sometimes we need that like stark awareness, but I don't think it's always necessary. And cacao is a really great way to, it's just like we talked about, like trines versus squares, right? Like catharsis is like the squares, and like I'm going to do it the hard way and feel really uncomfortable so that I remember forever. But if you really want more of a trine experience, you just have to remember this is what you did to get there, because you'll forget. Because it was too easy, because it was just like, oh, this is normal. But that's what cacao will do for you from an energetic standpoint.
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
this
can you talk?
concept of titration in somatics. Like in
Yes.
somatics, titration is a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and then there's this transformation that occurs versus like actual traumatization, which is too much, too fast, too soon. And cacao, exactly like you said, it's a beautiful support for that little bit by little bit, like taking you to your tender edge and helping you grow there without then like feeling this urge to like slam yourself back into your protective shell, because that was so much. That was just so much.
Yeah, and I think that's what, when people do ayahuasca, I think that's what they experience a lot of times. And or combo or mushrooms. Like this is not a psychoactive drug. It's just a plant medicine that does have action on the brain, right? It has the tryptophan, it has the things, but such a sweet, adorable amount that is just not going to push you over some edge and make you see multiple past lives or some scary stuff like that. It's just going to go, okay, what's here? What's here right in front of you right now? What's going on right in front of you? And it's very grounding in that way because it's recentering you back to your heart. The rest of you kind of realigns appropriately up and down. But yeah, it's such a good, especially to do in group ceremony. It's an amazing thing to do in group ceremony. Can we talk a little bit about the specifics of how it's processed? Because I think that when we pull back the curtain on from earth to cup, we start to get a little more appreciation for the processes that this has gone through. So let's say like it ripens, right? And it's in these giant pods.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like if you think about a coconut, like with the green parts on it, it's like that big, but it's like skinny and longer like that. But it's huge. They're huge. And you crack it open and you've got like white stuff inside. It's not even
Yeah, it's like
brown.
white seed-looking things, but then also kind of like almost a pulp. It's interesting. Not that I've seen it in person. That would be awesome. I'd love to see it in person sometime. It starts out as this big pod that has to be opened up. The seeds need to be cleaned out of there, and then they're dried. And very often they're dried just out in the sun. It's a very nature-based process, especially for these cultures in Central and South America. There are also some areas of Africa where they are producing cacao. I'm sure there might be other places, but those are the places that I'm aware of. And so these seeds get dried out in the sun and they go through this fermentation process that I don't remember all the specifics of that process, but something about that process helps change, not necessarily change the cacao, but like it's like this opening up of what's already there. It makes it more accessible. And I
Yeah.
believe there's also a roasting process
Yeah,
involved
I think
somewhere
so.
in there. Yeah, that there's this roasting process as well. Like not to the point that it destroys what's naturally occurring, but to the point that it shifts the flavor a little bit and makes things a little bit more accessible.
What I find to be incredible is that when they finally grind it, it is in the like concept of what we would think of as like chocolate bars. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they have to add it to anything. Like it has enough fat in it that it just creates that melty gooiness, and that's just like wild to me. Because you think of when we think of chocolate powder, we think, oh, I should probably add that to something to make it creamy. But no, that's because they've taken out the fat
Yes.
or a large quantity of the fat in order to make it into a powder. And then they use the cocoa butter for, elbows and stuff. And
Yeah.
white chocolate.
Yeah. Which is so funny. It's interesting, like for anyone who has like tasted a wide variety of chocolates at different like cocoa percentages or cacao percentages, however you want to say it, and they've tasted like white chocolate and then they taste actual cacao. And I'm not even talking about like the cacao nibs that like you can sprinkle in your smoothie, but like high quality, very intentionally produced, like ceremonial grade cacao. And just the difference in flavor profiles and the difference in like what physically happens in your body with consumption, especially if you're really paying attention. It's wild, just the variety of experiences you can have, because I don't know about everyone else in the world, but for me, like if I eat white chocolate, there's a part of me that's like, this tastes really good. But there's another part of me that's like, my body feels kind of terrible now. And then I go to cacao and it's like, no, I feel amazing. Like I feel nourished. I feel grounded. I feel open and receptive. And it's just interesting. Like it all comes, at least part of it comes from the same plant, but what's been done to it and why, and what's been taken out and what's been added in, and how much of the original substance is still actually present.
Love it. I love this. I have eaten even like 73% chocolate rate or higher. That was what was touted to me when I was, I don't know, 20 or something. And I was like, okay, that's my rule, 73%. And I don't know why that became a rule, but it did, like universally became a rule. But I loved it because it was good. All those antioxidants are really protective. Like I used to just like eat a bunch of chocolate and then go running for 2 hours and I would get sunburned.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. In the middle of the day too. And I have super pale skin. Like I've never been able to do that before. But the antioxidants content is for real, it's for real. So, and it's heart protect. Like it's just so funny to me that it's fully in alignment with what people say it does energetically. And then when you layer on the health concepts, like it is very protective of the heart. A lot of the stuff it does, the actions it does, act on the physical heart as well as the energetic heart, and the physical brain as well as the energetic brain. And there's just so much to it. So much to it. So, anything else? I don't know. This is like, you did a good overview, and then we talked about nitty gritty stuff. What are some sources that you use for ceremonial grade cacao? Because I'm sure that's going to come up.
Yeah, so I've looked into multiple different companies, and there appears to be some really good ones out there. One that I personally have purchased from in my like recent journey of like actually really getting to know cacao is called Aura Cacao, ORA. And one thing I really liked about them was that they work with people who live in Central and South America and live in Africa, and it's a very regenerative process. They pay these people really well to produce the cacao, and they don't take too much. They have listed out like, okay, this cacao was grown in this area by people who live in this way, and this impacts the cacao. Like I just love reading about like in Tanzania, like this, it's the cacao that they make there is primarily harvested and like processed by women. And so they talk about like the impact that like the cacao has on these women, but also the impact that these women have on the cacao. And then it comes to you and it's part of the medicine of that. And I don't know, there's just a lot of like, let's go support people where they're at and not take advantage of them, because they could take advantage of them. I'm sure there are other companies that are similar in their processes that are more very like regenerative and very give back and support the more indigenous cultures, but I can't speak to them specifically because I haven't researched them as much as Aura Cacao.
PS not sponsored, guys.
Mm.
But
Not sponsored.
so, it's for sure. Yeah, I love this. And it's an important piece of the conversation too, because we in North America just can't like start our own grove, right?
Yeah.
And also, it's not directly from our culture, right? Like that is not a cultural plant that we have. So we have to pay clear attention around who did the gods steal this for, right? And
Yeah.
where is that, and how are we honoring those people and their processes? And that's really important in all of this. Because we don't want to just import a piece of somebody's culture without like the cultural context around it, and especially not without honoring their yay, let's go get rich making a bunch of money off of stuff we took from indigenous people. Like, let's stop doing that. Let's please stop doing that. And that's one thing that I love about cacao too, is because for some reason, this particular plant has said, no, I'm standing up for my people. And most people are like, yeah, okay, we'll do that. Yeah, okay. Let's make sure that the indigenous populations are actually taken care of. Now, did Hershey do that? Probably not, but we're revisiting that, right? If we're talking about ceremonial cacao, you can't have it be in ceremony and treat the people poorly. Like that is mutually exclusive. So thanks for that.
Yeah, it's a very important part of the conversation because it brings me back to this idea of like the power over paradigm and like the concept of colonization and like going in and telling people who are already somewhere, your way is wrong, my way is right. And almost this like raping of the land, like just taking what you can get and with no concern. And that's not a empowered feminine, that's not an empowered masculine way to do things either. I want to point that out. That's not an empowered way to do that, whether you're talking about masculine energy or feminine energy. But a more feminine way and a more empowered feminine way to go about interacting with other cultures is to go in curiosity, in collaboration, in what can I learn from you and what can I give you? Like, let's support each other and let's understand each other. And I think that with ceremonial cacao, that, yeah, there's a lot more of that going on. versus some of what happens with like the chocolate that ends up on the shelves in the grocery store as candy bars. And some of that is shifting as well. But yeah, cacao somehow has had a little bit different story.
Yeah, and the same is true of coffee, I think. It's shifting around coffee as well, and that makes me happy because coffee and chocolate are amazing. Oh, I had something really important then and I got distracted by the idea of coffee. Dang it.
Oh, darn coffee.
Darn coffee.
Distracting you.
Oh, the colonization thing is a bigger piece of the puzzle that when we talk about the witch wound is a piece of colonization. The concept of like white people did this to everybody. Yeah, and they did it to themselves too. The colonization thing is part and parcel with the witch wound. And so bringing in the conversation, it's really an anti-feminine concept of like, oh no, we're not going to collaborate. We're going to take. We're going to take and we're going to leave you for dead. And we're going to demonize your connection to the earth. And at the end of the day, that's the biggest problem with all of the colonization issues is a severance from the connection to the land, severance from the connection to natural cycles, severance from the connection to community. So this is another way to celebrate the reuniting is through using different sources of any food than what is being done. And most importantly, in ceremonial stuff and in like these ways that we're reconnecting to different cultures. And also, yeah. Cacao, guys, do it. It's good for you. It's good for the earth. It's good for the planet. I don't know. Maybe. Jury's still out. I have never gotten my ceremonial cacao from a company because I always found myself finding people who are connected to secret farms.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
So it's just like always been like a train of an underground railroad of cacao for some reason. Yeah, it's wild. I was like, where did I buy that? Oh yeah. Where did that
From
come from?
somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
Who knew the farmers or who knew people who had property in their family for like years and years, like generations and generations, and they've been harvesting this for like it was just like this very. I get connected to crazy people. I didn't realize that.
That's beautiful though. I love that that's like how you've experienced sourcing cacao.
Yeah, thank you. So my first, okay, that's a good segue. Hello. My first cacao ceremony, this beautiful couple who they got married in the 70s. They're hanging out today. They're like eternal beings, I swear. That guy is the man, his name is Christo Olivia and Jim Work. Oh my gosh, they're beautiful people. He straight up looks like Gandalf.
Oh my gosh, that's so perfect.
Yes. And she's this like adorable French lady. But they were doing cacao ceremonies in our area. That was like their business. That's what they did. They felt called to do the cacao ceremonies. And it was like my birthday. It was actually like on my birthday years and years ago. And I just happened to find myself in a cacao ceremony.
Happy birthday to you.
It was. I got so many things that day, like by accident. People were just like, oh. I'd be like, oh, I like your scarf. Oh, it's yours. Like that happened to
Oh
me
my
like more than
god.
one time in that like in that gathering. And so we're sipping the cacao. They've gone through all of the history and everything that we just talked about now. And they're like, okay, go ahead and take a sip. And I took a sip and I was like expecting something different, experiential than like drinking hot chocolate. So I was like, am I supposed to feel something? And then I go and they're like, okay, well, go on off and appreciate the area. Like it was at this really cute little house in the woods. Somehow it was in the woods when it was also like in the middle of a very city area, but there was like this one little house in the woods. And this lady had set up her property so beautifully, like with all of these geometric solids. So it was like these sacred geometry pieces all over her property and these
Wow.
statues. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And I'm walking around looking at all the like beautiful stuff. And this lady comes up to me and she like gives me a hug and we just started like randomly vocalizing. And I'm still having this brain thought of like, I don't feel anything. Am I supposed to feel something? And then they're like, all right, guys, come back. We're going to do circle time. And we're just standing there like singing. Still like, okay, fine, I'll come back. And then it hit me and I was like, That's what this is. I don't normally sing with random strangers and hug them, right? So it was really cool experience, but it was also like, okay, this heart opener is very, very gentle, and you like no idea that this is happening.
Mhm.
No idea. And it did. And then it happened. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm okay. Everything's okay. So that was my experience. Yeah, but I got so many presents that day. Just no one knew it was
Awesome.
my birthday. I just was like, I like your scarf. I like your bracelet. Oh, really? It's yours. Like, what? Thank you. Okay.
Apparently, you were very open to receiving.
Was. It worked out great. Yeah. But since then, I've done several cacao ceremonies in women's circles, which has been really, like, that was a mixed circle. And then the women's circle was really wonderful, really lovely. We found a snake skin. We
Wow.
made like a little altar in the middle with some stuff that we found in this other. I go to people's houses and they just have magical houses, man. They just have like magical properties
I
by
mean, symbols
accident
of the feminine all over the place.
all
Snakeskin.
over the place. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Tell me about your experience.
Okay, so my first experience with cacao was about 3 years ago, and I was attending a womb healing, like an all day womb healing ceremony and drum making experience. And I had no idea going into it that I didn't even know we were having cacao. I didn't even really know. It wasn't on my radar. I was like, I don't know what cacao is other than it's related to chocolate. Anyway, we did so much healing work around like the womb and stuff. And then at one point they said like, okay, we're going to have some cacao. And they talked about how it connects us to our hearts and it opens up your heart and why that's important for also connecting with your womb. And the facilitator, her name is Holly Hope, and she's amazing. If you ever want to make a drum or participate in a drum ceremony, she's fantastic. She's based in St. George, Utah, but she travels all over the place. Anyway, little plug for Holly because she's amazing. But she had the cacao there, and she kind of gave us a heads up like, it can be a little bit bitter if you're not used to if you're not used to it, it may not be quite what you're expecting because it is not hot chocolate. And she was like, you can add some cayenne pepper to it if you want. You can add a little bit of milk or plant milk, but like, and then here you go. Here's your cacao. And I was like, okay. So I just drink this. And my first sip, I was like, what? What is this? I don't know if I like this. But I ended up finishing it and I was like, okay, that's cool. And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. I didn't notice anything. But in hindsight, after that, when we went back into healing work, I was way more open than I had previously been. And I was also more expressive, more connected to my own, I guess, creative spark, you could say. And a really powerful experience. And I ended up making my womb drum at that same event that I still use. I love my womb drum. It's amazing. Um, and then I had that experience and then didn't interact with cacao at all for several years. And then, let's see, was it earlier this year? About 6 to 9 months ago, I was going through a period of time where I had a lot of grief coming up. And it was actually really funny. It started with chocolate. Like bringing me back to cacao started with chocolate. And like my husband had bought this fancy box of chocolates and for one Christmas, and I had ended up eating like most of it in the end because he forgot it even existed. And so as like an apology, I'm like, I'm sorry I ate most of our chocolate. I bought him his own box of these chocolates. And there was one day that I just felt so sad and I was like, I really want chocolate. And I was like, okay, is this like an emotional eating thing or is this like I actually need chocolate, trying to feel into it? And I ended up texting my husband and saying, hey, would it be okay if I ate just one piece of your chocolate? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And I got the piece of chocolate and I smelled it and I started sobbing. And I was like, what is wrong with me? I'm
Wow.
crying over chocolate. And then I ate it very like slowly and very intentionally and just like savored it. And I was like, wow, what was that? Like okay, cool. And I actually had this exact same experience with chocolate multiple times over the next few months where I'd just feel this like really strong, like, I need chocolate. And then I'd say, hey, Lige, like, would it be okay if I had another piece of your chocolate? And he's like, yeah, go for it. And the same thing, just like not sobbing. The first time was the only time there was like actual sobbing, but I would tear up and feel so much emotion. And then all of a sudden, one day, it hit me like, my body's not actually asking for chocolate. That's just the closest thing that we have around. That's what my body's asking for. And it's like, my body's asking for cacao. My body's asking for help opening my heart. Like, what? Okay. And so I researched a few companies and I found some cacao and was like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. And then I put it off. I didn't actually buy until Julie and I started putting together our retreat. That's a week away, which is wild to me that it's only a week away. But we started putting together our retreat, and the focus was on the heart, kind of taking a heroine's journey into your own heart. And then it suddenly struck me like, oh, how can I lead this retreat when I keep ignoring this deep calling to connect with cacao and like have my heart opened more? Like, I can't possibly lead this retreat in integrity if I don't follow this. So then I actually did buy the cacao and I started having experiences with it that were really, really powerful. Aura Cacao has kind of like a Cacao 101 course that you can buy, and like meditations that like kind of guide you through interacting with cacao. And I did a few of those, and then a few of my own just kind of like meditative experiences with cacao. And I had this really powerful experience where it felt like I met the spirit of cacao, that I met this plant spirit, and that this plant spirit was a woman, and a woman who was constantly shifting and changing, like sometimes a maiden, sometimes a mother, sometimes a crone, and changing in appearance, changing skin tone, changing hair color. And she was the most like nurturing presence I think I've ever been around. And it was very healing to just be in that space of sensing that spirit. And I just had like multiple other really potent experiences interacting
Okay,
with
wait.
cacao.
I have to tell
Yes.
you, you are calling her in. I hope that everyone can feel that you're calling her in right now. She's just hanging out
Yeah.
with us now.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt that too. I was like,
I
okay,
was like,
here we are.
whoa.
And at one point I was in my bathtub because I do a lot of my like pondering the universe in my bathtub because probably because I'm got a lot of Pisces energy. But I was just pondering some things and pondering religion and pondering spirituality and grieving some things that just did not make sense to me. And I was drinking cacao in the bathtub and just pondering things, and had this interaction with the spirit of cacao again, where it was very much this like, you've had a lot of experience with masculine ways of approaching spirituality and religion. And you don't have to let go of the good that you've gained from that. But now it's time to explore more feminine ways of interacting with spirituality and religion. And then you get to put it together. You don't have to give up one part or the other. And I like cried so hard because at the time there was a part of me that's like, how do I reconcile these different pieces? How do I reconcile these different things that I have learned and experienced and these things that I've felt called to do? And just almost this permission. And I felt the sense of like my own connection to deity as well coming into the picture and saying like, you have full permission to explore the spectrum of masculine and feminine when it comes to spirituality and religion. And you don't have to let go of anything that is good for you, and you don't have to keep anything that's not good for you. And that was such a powerful experience. It was just so, so beautiful. And even now, like talking about it, I can feel like just this warmth and this groundedness in the sense of you are so loved. And so it's really beautiful to revisit that right now.
It's so beautiful to revisit that with you right now. Oh my gosh, it's so amazing. It's like the air has like a texture to it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought I wanted to say something about multiple plant spirits, but I'm not anymore because this really like caught me off guard, man. But it's an important thing that you're bringing up here. Because I think a lot of people who are on the feminine path of rediscovering the feminine path, all of this stuff, we're going, okay, we've got these stories over here that we're like entertaining that are feminine, and we've got these stories over here that are feminine, we're entertaining those. And particularly if you've grown up in any kind of religious background, I mean Christian religion, or likely any Judeo-Christian westernized religion. Not that I can personally speak to either of those, but there's just a lot of rules that are very masculinized. And you can only compartmentalize this experience that you're having with the feminine so much. And there's a point where you go, how do I reconcile these two things? Because the rules I was taught here was you have gods before me, so you're going to hell. Oh, you're starting to believe something different, so you're going to hell. Maybe you're starting to feel into like the idea of multiple lives. Oh, now you're going to hell, right? Like there are all these like threatening pieces that when you start the work with the feminine a little bit, it's sort of fun and exciting, and you can kind of keep it over there, and you keep this part over here. And then it grows big enough to the point where you really have to start asking those bigger questions and integrating those things completely. And it's a scary process because the answer has always been your soul's going to burn forever and in scary terribleness. So how do we integrate that? How do I integrate this over here with this over here and not have that like panic and fear and terror? This is a really great way that you did that. You in the bath with ceremonial cacao, like total heart opening, total mind like relaxing, like just completely. This is a great way to integrate that. I'm so excited for you. Wow, that was amazing.
Thank you.
It's amazing.
It was definitely, like, a pivotal moment for me just to recognize, like, I have full permission to connect with all the things that I feel called to connect with, that there is not a mutual exclusion going on, even though it gets presented sometimes like a mutual exclusion when we look outside of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's exactly where it comes from, is outside of ourselves, that these two things are mutually exclusive according to those people over there, or that person over there, or this story I've been told repeatedly by someone else. But the question is, does it feel true for me that these two things have to be mutually exclusive? Exactly. If that doesn't feel true, then it doesn't have to be part of your truth. That's not like a slippery slope. I hate that term.
Yeah.
Just freaking stupid. It is. The rabbit hole is a slippery slope, guys. That's what we're signed up for. That is how we grow. We have to fall down the slippery slope and do the things that we're afraid to do. And sometimes the reason we're afraid to do them is because other people told us that your soul's going to burn for all eternity. So, anyways, I'm going to get off that soapbox.
Or we receive the message that, like, you have to play it safe, that, like,
Yes.
because I remember, like, even growing up with this idea of, like, okay, you can be healed of anything, you can repent of anything, like, no mistake you make is final. That,
Yeah.
like, that you can turn to Christ and that can be transformed. And even growing up with that background, there was some part of me that was like, "Oh, but it doesn't apply to me, so I can't afford to make mistakes, and so I have to play it safe." And that is a traumatizing way to live your life. And now I come much more from this space of like, no, actually, I believe that more now. Like, I believe that no mistake that I make is final more now that I have become more open to truth in a variety of faces, I guess you could say, truth in a variety of colors and textures than I ever did when I was in a place of fear, a place of like, I have to get it right. And I wouldn't say that it is necessarily religion that created that fear. It was my interpretation of what I was being taught and other people's interpretations of truth that was within that religion. Does that make sense? Like, misinterpretation of truth was at the core for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because people are still wounded. God is perfect,
Yeah.
but people are wounded, and
Yes.
they're going to
Yeah.
see things their own way, and they're going to interpret it their own way, and they're going to react to your behavior in
Yes.
a certain way according to their own wounds and fears and what their emotional makeup is.
Yeah.
And when we're kids, we absorb that reaction and go, this thing over here is bad and evil and wrong and I should never do it. And especially if you're in a religious environment, you have an additional pressure of, and God said so, right? Even if
Yeah.
God didn't say that, right? Like
Yeah.
it's just an impression that we've absorbed. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's very much like, as we're having this conversation, there's very much this sense of like, okay, and have you connected to God? Have you connected to your concept of God or goddess or God and goddess or however you look at it? Have you connected to that, or have you connected to what somebody else told you it was supposed to look like?
Yes.
And that's been like my journey over the past, honestly, probably decade, but I didn't realize that that was the journey I was on until more recently.
This is so cool. It's really funny to me that we're having this conversation all of a sudden, right? We didn't really plan to have any of this conversation, but it's
Exactly.
because Cacao is such a heart opener. And the minute she showed up and came
Mhm.
here, she's like, this is what we need to talk about. I'm like, okay,
Okay, I guess we'll
we're
do
going to
it.
talk about that.
We will do the thing.
Oh my goodness. There's something I was going to say. And once again, it flew out of my head. This is what happens when you turn 39, I guess. I don't know. Okay, what are your favorite mix-ins? What do you mix with it? And do you believe in dairy or no dairy for cacao? Not
Honestly,
necessarily
yeah.
for your personal life,
Yeah,
but for
yeah, for
cacao.
cacao. I don't really have a strong opinion either way on, like, dairy or non-dairy, mostly because I've done a lot of drinking cacao by itself. I haven't done a lot of, like, mixing things in. I do like adding a little bit of honey, because depending on where the cacao was grown and all kinds of different things, some varieties, I guess you could say, are more intense than others, and sometimes I need to take that edge off a little bit with a little bit of that sweetener. But I would say don't put too much in. Don't add too much of anything, like, because it's the cacao itself that you're probably wanting to interact with.
So yeah, I'm a no dairy person in
Okay.
cacao. There's some part of me in my mind that goes, there's something about the dairy molecules that's like stunting the cacao. Not a generalized statement, just in the context of this.
Mhm.
But what is an excellent mix in is rose powder. I love rose powder with cacao because it's an additional heart opener. And
Yeah.
then cinnamon is very warming. And so I just find that it like drives it in a little bit more. And then I keep hearing, and I don't know how this will play out because I don't think you powder blue lotus, but maybe the butterfly pea powder. But there's like somebody's, I don't know who it is, but somebody's saying like blue lotus, blue lotus. I don't know what to do with that.
Just put it out there.
Normally, just put it out there. If you're like, yes, that one's for me, then yes, that is for you. Blue lotus. But I've had blue lotus separately in a different situation, and it's more of a mind opener and relaxing. Like it's great for anxiety and limiting beliefs. But cacao is very much a heart opener. So I think the message is like maybe have one and then the other kind of thing if you're ever doing, if you're having a whole body experience, you're like, I want more blue lotus. Well, this has been fun. What is one last word of wisdom that you want to share with everybody before we sign off?
What's popping into my head is just sometimes it's a little scary to open up our hearts more, because when we open up our hearts more, we do become more authentic. We do show up more as ourselves, and there is that fear of rejection. Like, what if they reject the real me instead of the not real me? Like, that's gonna hurt even more. But that risk is so, so, so worth it. To feel at peace in your own body, like, having this conversation right now, I feel so embodied. I feel so good. I feel so, like, unapologetically myself, and that feeling is worth it, because then you can really connect with other human beings in a way that is incredibly nourishing and nurturing rather than almost, like, competitive.
Oh, yes. before we started, I was like, how are we we need to make sure we explicitly connect this to the feminine. And I was like, like, it is so much part of the feminine. It is so much like heart opening is a feminine activity to begin with. Like, there's no like there's no like toxic masculine retreats that go opening your heart, right? Like, it's not gonna happen.
So I
So
totally think it could happen at a men's retreat that is very connected to like healthy and empowered masculine. I could see that.
100%, yes. But like, it's not that hyper masculine concept that we're talking about, where it's out of alignment, out of balance, out of
Yeah.
just really turned up on the take and really turned down on the give, really turned down on the receive, because take and receive are different.
Yeah, 100%.
So, but yeah, Cacao, I think the Spirit of Cacao is just like having a great time hanging out with us today. All that feminine energy just poured through. So I hope you guys are picking up on it. I'm pretty sure it's getting recorded. I will tell you, this is totally aside, like nothing to do with Cacao. But there are times where I'll listen to a podcast and I'll listen to the same episode more than once, but I'll have the same thoughts in a row at the same points of that episode. And then
There's
I
an
go,
energetic signature.
yes, exactly. And sometimes that happens when I listen to our podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's what happens next. So anyhow, thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you are wanting to do a cacao ceremony near you, that is awesome. I hope you find people who are nearby. There's the way I found people near me was through Facebook groups. And just getting connected in with the hippiest, dippiest friends around. And that's how you find them. I mean, you get in the right circles. You can't throw a stick without getting invited to a cacao ceremony. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all next week. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Please make sure to give us a 5-star rating wherever you are listening and share with someone you know. See you next week.